Every 3-month cycles, we have the best month in the history of the company, and then we beat it by the third month. So we believe it's doable, and we show them how we're doing it, and then we show them how they can do it. And collaboration is the new currency because it's the best form of money you can get. You help somebody get more money, they help you get more money, and more people helping each other get more money, the easier the money is and the more fun it is because you're doing it with people you like to do it with. Hey, it's Brandon Dawson here. I'm really excited about this episode because I'm sitting here with Matt, who runs our platform business, which is literally our engineering and blueprinting business for the business owners that want us to architect and build out their business strategy. Matt, you've been with us. Introduce yourself. Tell everyone about yourself.
Yeah, so Matt Hendryx, I started December 2020, came out of large-scale operations, was going to go get my master's and start my own business. Found you on YouTube. Started to learn some entrepreneurship from you, and then found out you guys were right in my backyard in Vancouver, Washington. Fast track to now, senior director of the department, came through the department, overseeing the department, and moving my entire family down here in 2 weeks.
And so, you're chasing the opportunity just like we suggest to business owners. And we say to business owners, sometimes if you want to add something new to your life, you got to give something old up, right? Yep. And for you, it's giving up staying in Vancouver, Washington, and putting yourself in play where we have 150 employees. How big is your team now?
My team, total team, all of our supportive pieces, right about 30 team members.
32. And so, which is crazy because 2 years ago, there's probably 3.
Yeah, and I was employee 35.
And you were employee 35 of the company.
Yeah.
And today we have 250 some odd employees between our companies here.
Yep.
So pretty crazy growth, huh?
It's fantastic.
But one of the things that it's done for you is elevated your belief about what's possible. If we can do it, our clients can do it. Mm-hmm. And you're in charge of engineering the blueprint for our clients with your teams of people. Talk a little bit about what that blueprinting process is so people understand how extensive it is.
Yeah, the biggest thing that we try to get our clients to understand when they first start with us in platform is this is going to be like anything you've ever done before, because we're going to ask the quality of questions that you're not asking yourself, that you've never been around anybody else to ask you. And so we're going through day in and day out, really qualifying and quantifying everything that you say. You might tell us you have really good financial data, but we're going to dig into it. We're going to find the opportunities in it. We're going to find the holes in it. You might think you're tracking your customer data, fantastic, but who's actually validating the data? Who's scrubbing the data to make sure it's showing what you think it's actually showing? And so we just go through every nook and cranny in these businesses, and we find all the blind spots, all the holes. And then while we have a team of 20 plus in the background analyzing that data, finding out where the true market opportunity is for these clients, we're taking and saying we're plugging all these strategic holes, so we're building momentum as they go forward.
And so I just interviewed a couple of guys that were running an average of about $550,000 a month before they joined us and went into the platforming process. And the largest single month they'd ever had in their history, their company was $800,000, and they broke off of that and went back down to $500 because they overbuilt and then broke. And we see that all the time with clients.
Yeah.
And then in the platforming process, by the third month, they had doubled their monthly revenues, and then they're almost growing them at another 50%. So they went from 500,000 to 800,000, 800,000 to a million, 250, and it's like every month is like Christmas because they get to the end of the month and they're having a better month than they've ever had in the history of the company, which is our philosophy. Yep. And so when we're talking to business owners, we're like, hey, here's Cardone Ventures' philosophy. Every 3-month cycles, we have the best month in the history of the company, and then we beat it by the third month. So we believe it's doable, and we show them how we're doing it, and then we show them how they can do it. How gratifying is it for you to know? Because you've run probably, I think, through the platforming process, I think it's about $500 million in businesses.
Yeah, it's pretty astronomical. They're not the anomaly. The clients that were just in here chatting with you, they're not the anomaly. They're more of the norm. Because once we get going with our clients and we start probing and qualifying, quantifying, and digging deeper, we start to show them the opportunity right away. We're showing them traction right away. They're seeing the business move forward right away. And so their belief of what everybody's told them they can't do, they can. And then as they start to be better leaders with that belief, it starts to filter through their entire team. And now they've got the entire support of my team taking every opportunity that pops up, every yield left or right in the business where they could choose two different paths, they've got our team of 30 strong that's supporting them every step of the way so that they know that I'm not in a vacuum making decisions anymore. I need to go to this massive target. I've never done it, but I'm with people that have not only done it themselves with the teams we've assembled, but also have engineered it for 300 plus clients as well.
And when they need a little bit of that inspiration, we connect them to one of the clients that's, in some cases, in a lot of cases, they can even be in the same industry because we work with so many different businesses that are in the same industry.
Yeah. We have two clients actually downstairs right now getting their platform delivery. One's in the logistics space. One's in the, what was actually gentleman you were just talking to that are in the refrigeration space. And they've already worked a deal out that's going to bring about $500,000 of revenue to the logistics company and save money now for the restaurant gasket team.
That's crazy, right? Because we have that. All of a sudden, we have clients meeting, coordinating, collaborating, and they start making money together.
Yep.
And so, it's one thing to be in the room for yourself, but it's another thing to be in a room with like-minded entrepreneurs, understanding that, and I have a favorite saying, collaboration is the new currency, because it's the best form of money you can get. You help somebody get more money, they help you get more money, and more people helping each other get more money, the easier the money is and the more fun it is because you're doing it with people you like to do it with. When you think about your own role of coming in as one of a couple people, because you had some bosses, and then advancing beyond those bosses and being the guy running the whole thing, and then watching the lives of the people we're working with. I mean, the Silvas going from 3 million to 30 million.
Yeah.
Lagomarsino going from 26 or 27 million to 60 million. Yeah. Rudolph going from 30 million stuck, not making any money, to almost 100 million. When you see that and you're like, I engineered that plan with the team, and then you see him actually do it, how good does that make you feel about getting up and go to work every day?
For me, at the people piece, the impact that business being the vehicle to support families within the business, communities around the business, and then all the lives that they touch, the impact is bigger than just the one business we're working on. And so that's something that every day that myself and the team talks about is what's the value that we're driving, because that value is multiplied. By every business we touch, they have hundreds of families and lives that they get impact as well.
So for someone listening to this show and they're like, oh, how serious do they take their client success? I mean, we do sit around as an organization and acknowledge the fact that by impacting one business owner who has a team of 10 or 50 or 100, we're actually impacting thousands of people because it's in that community. And when it works, it multiplies. When it doesn't work, it reduces. And when it reduces, it creates pain for the people involved. And it disrupts families. It disrupts lifestyles. It disrupts health, because when things go bad, they can really go bad. We've even had some members that had health crises while we're platforming. We step in and figure out how to maneuver through it with the teams. We're like the professional firefighters sometimes, right? or the EMTs showing up to keep the person alive. People ask me all the time, why do we work so hard? And to me, and I'd like to get your perspective, it's the gratification that we can, when we need to, step in and help these things grow.
Yeah, I think there's something about not just being the person that you need, but being the person that other people can rely on. And that's what Cardone Ventures does. That's what the platform team does. I mean, every single account manager, every marketing manager, every finance manager, our entire data team, all the support staff and analysts that we have, everybody is there in a moment's notice. We were up till 1 a.m. on a group call the other day trying to solve something for one of our clients because there was just something going on in the business and the client had no idea. And they were throwing their hands up asking for help. And so we were all on the call 1:30 in the morning, addressing it, giving action plans so that when they were up in the morning, they had it in their inbox ready to connect with us the next morning to start moving forward.
Man, if you just heard what he said, I wonder how many entrepreneurs. Remember that out of 31.5 million small to mid-sized businesses under 100, 125 million, 97% of those businesses statistically fail every 10 years. 2/3 fail in the first 5 years. The one thing that I'm most proud of is having the vision to build an organization that's there for those people when they need it. Now, how much better is their life when they don't necessarily know they need it because they're not in a crisis, but they're proactive about taking it and applying it to their business, and they absolutely crush it.
Yeah, those are the fun cases. The value cases are the ones where they're reliant. But the clients, when they're saying, I could do this on my own, but I want to see how fast I can get there. I want to see how optimized I can be to get there. So I'm putting less into it. My team's the ones doing it. Those are the ones where you see the massive improvements in 3 months. And by the time we're getting to 6 months, 7 months, we're talking about shifting the entire landscape because momentum's built and we're pulling opportunities too. And we've already created strategic partnerships. We've got alliances coming from other conjoined services that we're seeing a business go from $15-20 million run rate over the last 8 years, high belief lid. Now we're saying we're at a $60 million target for this year. And that's when you see the smiles, not only of the owner, but then of the leaders in the organization, because they're looking around going, okay, this is real. This is real. And they start to see the opportunity flowing for them as well.
There's an old saying, people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
Yeah.
And when we orchestrate these businesses and the business owners decide to take the leadership ownership position, not abdication, but actually, I'm going to start driving into the business impact based on what I'm being taught to do and how to format and how to run the business. I know for me, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, it's so gratifying to watch a business owner actually grow up, to go from being an abdicator and a complainer to actually owning the results day by day, week by week, month by month, and then seeing how much capacity there is in the business because we teach them to connect that capacity to their employees. Mm-hmm. So when the employees win, the business wins. When the business wins, the employee wins. When you see that momentum start to take shape and form, what is your thoughts when you see those numbers and you see the people and they're so excited and the teams are so excited and coming through the workshops? What does that make you feel like as a human being?
For me, you take the numbers aside and you take the impact that they have, especially as a leader. You take someone that is a leader, they're a victim of circumstance, victim of vendors, victim of their team members, and then you can get that self-actualization where they realize they've been creating a victim in themselves because they have not been a leader for themselves or for their team. And when that light switch goes off, that's when the game gets really easy and really fun. And they're no longer owning a job now. Now they own a business because now they have team members that look at them and say, I want to follow you, as opposed to, God, this guy, this gal, when's payday again, And so we can really flip the switch of an entire culture, starting at the top, but also working organically from within as well. And so that for me is the most impactful piece.
I've got my new book coming out, 9-Figure Mindset, and the generally speaking, the thesis of the book is what you just said. It's shifting your mind, taking ownership in the belief of what's possible, taking the responsibility for operational effectiveness to ensure that you're doing everything as best as you possibly can, and then choosing to lead yourself, and then by being an example, leading your team, and then building a business big enough with enough momentum that your culture starts leading because they're living by your mission, vision, and values. And you just described what that transformation is. So, if people are curious, like, how do I make a massive shift in my business or in my life? It's by choosing to do something different tomorrow than what you're doing today that you did yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard you say it a lot, like change happens organically. Growth happens intentionally. And when a client is intentional in working with us, and our team every day is intentional in pushing on them to improve, to implement, to restructure, not just as dismissing what we've done to this point, but knowing, hey, to do the massive impact you want to see in your business and to do the massive impact you want to see in your family, personal, professionally, financially, it's going to take intentional change. And that to me is where we can really see the biggest shifts, is when we make that intentional decision, not just, it'll happen, or we'll see, or play in the victim card of any seasonality or anything you want to throw out.
And you personally have made those shifts because you went from working in the department to running the whole department. Mm-hmm. And you went from working in the department with a small team to running the whole department with a massive team.
Yeah.
And you and I both know that we're just getting started here. And the thing that is fun for us is when we actually, with the research team, find, and I think it's Sharon Lecter's book, 3 Feet from Gold, where we actually find for one of these businesses a main vein that has hidden gold and they didn't even know it was there, and then we get to tell them.
Yeah.
How good does that feel?
Fantastic. I mean, it's like a client that you look into their financials and you pinpoint something that looks off, and we dig in and you find $400,000 that we need to get back in their hands. And then when they get it back in their hands, they're looking at us going, how did you guys just do what you did. It's just the quality of the team, it's the quality of the work, and it's the quality of the questions that we go through.
And then you get to fast forward with people like Silvas and Rudy and Steve, and you see that you also helped them add an extra 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars of net worth to their portfolio.
Yeah. Well, every single one of those clients you just rolled off, like they've transitioned almost to becoming family and friends of everybody on our team because we've had those longstanding relationships. And we're also seeing that the goals that they talked about when we first met them, that were the important things, they haven't just achieved them, they've exceeded them. They've exceeded them earlier at a much greater magnitude than they thought they were going to, and now they're paying it back into the community. They're paying it back into the 10X community, into the businesses that are working with us. And so that massive impact is huge.
I agree. And it keeps me going every single day, and I know it keeps you going. And I just want to say from me to you, so proud to have you on the team. You're killing it, dude.
Appreciate you.
All right. So, Matt, one of the things we hear all the time when people hear the price tag for platforming the business is, I just don't have the money for it. And so I want to ask you statistically, of the 400 platforms that we've done, how many people start the platform process and then have to quit because we haven't helped them find the money for it?
It's an intriguing question because it's two parts, I would say. But less than 2% of our clients that come into us have we ever seen come out because we could not overcome the price piece for them and the investment piece for them. But it's less than that when you take out the clients that were resistant to letting our team actually work. And they were like, oh, there's other money off the books we don't want to talk to you about. But yeah, it's few and far between, very infrequent.
And so we could sit here and come up with an example. Like, I can't remember if it was Savvy and Sons that started. They were 2 months into the program, and we're like, something doesn't make sense in your EBITDA, your earnings algorithm, your cash flow algorithm. And they're like, no, everything, this is what it's always been, and my best friend run the books, and blah, blah, boo-boo, DDD. And so we're like, can you give us the passwords to the books? So we go in and do our audit, which is going to be much more than just trusting your buddy. Mm-hmm. And how much money did we find that had been stolen out of that business?
7 figures.
7 figures.
Yep.
And the platform cost them $200,000, and we got 7 figures back immediately because the theft had been going on in the business to a huge tune.
Yep.
How many times do we find theft in a business?
More than we would like to say, because people trust the wrong people. They've abdicated out those processes. But when we find it early. That's the first thing we dive into is the financials, because the financials aren't stable and the backbone of the business, then the owner's not actually owning a business. They're just riding the wave and hoping it keeps working week after week.
When there's theft, that's an easy one to fix.
Yep.
And then I think of another example that just happened. Somebody joined us. We're doing their books. We're isolating out the way we look at books, which is revenues and primary revenue sources, not just lumped revenues. And then we align the cost of goods with those individual revenue sources so we can see what is the true cost by source, right? And we do that because a lot of businesses are adding revenue, but they're doing it at lower margin business, and then they find out later that they're going broke, right? And in this particular case, we found when we audited the supply agreement to this client that they had a negotiated discount structure.
Yep.
And we found in one of the primary revenue sources, the supplier, the way they were doing the invoicing made it look like they were accessing their discount. But when we actually broke it out, we said, you're not getting your discount on this particular product.
That was their highest velocity product.
And it was their highest growth area. How much money did we get that supplier overnight with a renegotiation to pay our client?
Over $400,000.
So the platform cost $200,000, and within the first 60 days, we got them a check for $400,000.
Yep. And it's a client that came to Financial Essentials Workshop because he had abdicated out his financials. He was just having somebody else do it. He was looking at monthly statements. And then he came to Finance Essentials and was like, oh, I should start asking better questions. He started asking questions of our team. We started digging in. And the very first thing we saw was that the margins were way off when we categorized their cost of goods. And it's just another example of our clients asking quality questions, but also are the people that they're paying within their business that they trust, the friends, the colleagues, the in-laws that are doing the books, that are they, and they're actually doing what's best for them for where they want to go, not just what's been going. And the same things happen when we found theft. Started with a little bit. And then that little bit kept getting increased because they just didn't see it because they trusted the person. So they had just abdicated. They weren't going back and inspecting what they expected. They had no safety checks in the financial operations of the business. There was no two-part signers. There was no verifications. It was just give me my reports at the end of the month, or even worse at the quarter, or even worse than that, make sure my taxes are in before I have to pay a penalty.
And people wonder, like, how hard is it to steal from a business? Look, anybody can set up. I actually found in $1 billion company when we were doing an audit, almost $90 million that was stolen from that business. And what they were doing is created a bunch of dummy suppliers. You know, when you're $1 billion business, you got a lot of invoices coming through. And they were sending the invoices in, and then checks were going out. And nobody in the company knew it. They were going to these P.O. boxes and stuff. And then the person that was in charge running the company had set up all these dummy companies, and they were invoicing them for marketing and for consulting, for R&D. And it's just easy to steal. It's just, if you want to steal, you're going to get away with it if your owner is not paying attention to the numbers. So then the third thing comes to mind with someone that's like, oh, I don't know if I can pay for this or afford it. Within usually 90 days of platforming, especially coming out of the 10X 360, they start seeing a significant increase in revenues.
Right.
And the access revenues pay for it. So when I have clients that are like, I don't know if I can afford this, I don't know if I can pay for this, in our experience with hundreds and hundreds of these clients, the money's always found.
Right.
Or it's generated.
Yeah. And for a lot of our clients, it's simply changing the mentality from what can I cut to what can I generate, because it's abundant out there. We can go always find the more money. But the biggest thing too is when they come out of the 360 and they come to us and they've got a structured 90-day development plan, they listed out from finding out from the team, the executive team that walked them through that 360, what they needed to do. Now they have a team, my team, that's walking them through resources, support, guidance, action planning to make sure it's getting put in play in the business, and those revenue generating opportunities, as opposed to what can we cut because we invested here, now what do we go cut? It just changes, again, the mentality, but even more so, it starts showing proof to the clients that I can do more. I'm not capped at 180K every month in revenue. We aren't optimized to where we could be doing 750K a month in revenue.
Yeah, I think of Igor. He came to the 360. He was doing a few $100,000 a month, and then all of a sudden rocks it to 5 million, and then rocks it to 7.5 million. The guy, every time I see him, his head wants to explode. He's so happy, right? It looks like he's sucked helium in, and he's just like glowing from ear to ear because he's like, I can't. It's like a treasure trove every month.
Yeah. Great problems, new problems. Now we need to make sure the profitability is there, which is where our team's focus with Igor. Just had a new client that came up. They're in the sports space, and their big focus, they spend over $1 million a year in marketing, and they are highly concerned that they're not getting any return on their ad spend. No return on what they're investing. And so every client's unique. Every client's business, their market, their challenges, their budgets, everything's unique. And so that's where we can always find where the money is either not coming from or where it's going that it shouldn't be going from.
You know, one of the things when people say, I've been through the 360 and I want to go deploy that at home first and everything, what do we see, generally speaking, the impact of them doing it by themselves and how long that takes versus them deploying those things and your platforming team working side by side with them? What's the multiplier, them by themselves, us working with them deploying those elements?
It's 10x plus. It comes down to efficacy and actually being able to operationalize the ideas. And so our team's big focus is let's not just take what you thought was going to be the biggest revenue generating opportunity or profit security opportunity in the business. Let's actually look at the whole picture. And let's make sure that we're attacking things that need to be attacked right now. And then you have the functional experts on our teams that are supporting and walking them through that and holding them accountable. Whereas typical business owner goes back from the 10X 360, has a plan, has a book, it goes on the shelf, and they're the same person that wasn't implementing and putting this stuff in place already when they came, and they're the same person when they go back to doesn't.
Or they do implement it and they get a little success, and then 6 months later they're like, I want to engineer my platform, but the problem is now they got to wait 6 or 7 months and they stagnate.
Right.
So they lose a lot of momentum and a lot of energy versus just continue to go up and up and up. So I would say that the business owners that combined coming out of the 360, then platforming, and then have us walk them step by step by step with 10X owner, 10X employee, your team, as they deploy the new things they learn, they're talking in real time about the impact and what's happening and making minor adjustments. Because here's the thing that I always remind people: just because you did something and then you go, it didn't work, it doesn't mean you did that thing right.
Right.
You were probably doing it wrong. And when you have a sounding board to say, well, this is how I tried it, they're like, no, you got to make a minor adjustment. Then all of a sudden it sticks and it works and they get traction and they start moving faster. So for me, when people come up to me and they're like, I don't even have to ask them. When they're like, I went through the 360 and now my business is like, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, you're platforming, aren't you? And they're like, yeah, how'd you know? It's like, because most people come back now, I went to the 10X 360 and oh my gosh, we're trying and we're pushing and we've had some great breakthroughs, but they're not as, it's heavy because they're doing it all by themselves.
Right.
And it's, first of all, nothing's fun doing it by yourself. Secondly, you're still kind of navigating around all the dynamics, politics, lethargic environment, all this stuff, versus having a coach every day reminding you why you're doing it, where you're going to, what the opportunity is, and how to get there faster. So, your team does such a remarkable job with that.